Well, I'd like to start with you all just kind of telling a little bit about yourselves and what led you to start homeschooling.
Um, okay, so hi, I'm Leah. I never intended to be a homeschool mom. Essentially, what happened was when my oldest became of age to go to school, I just didn't feel like I could send her away for 8 hours a day. And I looked at James and I was like, we're going to have to try homeschooling. Like, we're just going to have to. And so we did a trial year, is kind of what we said. And we've just stuck with it ever since for me. He has a history of homeschooling, which we'll get into. But I loved my public school. I had a really great one. I didn't always have the best experiences, but the only homeschoolers, I only knew two homeschoolers growing up. So I never thought it's what it is now, for sure.
Right. Yeah, I was half public school and then homeschooled the rest of the year. So I worked the rest of the
Life,
yeah,
the rest of your life.
Just the schooling time, right?
I was gonna say I was public school till like seventh grade, and then from eighth grade on, I was homeschooled. So I've had kind of foot in both worlds, but and it was a good experience for me. And so when it did come time to try and figure out schooling for our oldest, it was like, well, I was homeschooled. We could try that, especially since you don't necessarily want to send her away for hours a day, right now. So, and it just really worked out.
Nice. So you all, I was reading how much you do for our local homeschooling community, which is amazing. What led you to kind of go from, okay, yeah, we're going to homeschool to now we're going to help other people homeschool?
It's honestly, for me, it's just being who I needed. I had one mentor in the homeschooling world, and she unfortunately passed away a few years ago. But she literally just taught me that the homeschooling world was so much bigger than I ever thought it was. And she laid out curriculums, and she had extra, you know, all the things you could think of. And so for me, I have always had this life process of be who you need. And so when we had kids, and we actually moved back to Alabama about 10 years ago when our youngest was literally just born almost.
Yeah.
I immediately got into the world of being who I needed. I immediately tried to just find all the friends I could. I'd arrange park play dates, I'd arrange whatever I could. And eventually that evolved into, as my kids grew, it evolved into homeschooling as well. So that's kind of how I run Exodus, is just being who I needed. I needed someone to hold my hand, and I needed someone who accepts me with grace on my bad days and who doesn't judge me you know, if I forgot to bring the food for the gathering, whatever, because we're not perfect people over here. And so that's kind of just how I started Exodus, is just being who I needed. Um, I actually started doing field trips separate of Exodus, and we started with field trips, or I started with field trips,
Yeah.
and we realized what the need was, and then the next year we started Exodus. So it all started out just being what I needed.
Yeah, essentially, it was a lot of people who were like, you'd talk about places. You'd be like, oh, I want to go to the Atlanta Zoo one day. Oh, yeah, that'll be great. Everybody wants to go one day. And it's like, well, if somebody sets a time and a date and gets a group together, more, people are inclined to actually, oh, we've wanted to do that. Yeah, we've been talking about it. It'd be great. And they'll go. So that kind of led into other things of, homeschoolers want to do all these field trips and stuff, but trying to find the time and trying to figure that out, kind of setting the date's always the hardest part. So going ahead and being like, we will set these field trips up because you want to do this stuff anyway. We'll coordinate the whole thing and it'll be great for everyone. And then it kind of, when we were, talking about turning it into a full co-op thing, it was really kind of, as you said, being what we needed was, how do we take what we do at home and expand it into a co-op experience? Like the way that we're, without having to completely change everything that we're doing, completely adapt to a whole new model. How do we just take what we're doing now and kind of expand it and scale it up in a way. So that, I mean, because currently we do 1 day a week of classes. We
Well, we
do
do half a day a week of classes now, and then
Well,
half
yeah.
a day with clubs.
classes club.
So it's only 1 day out of the house.
You know, we do field trips a couple times a month. We do, you know, parties and things like that. But it's all kind of the way we would run things at home, only scaled up. We didn't want it to be something that completely takes over the homeschool experience.
Well, and I think that was so important when we first started this, because we started this, we're going on our 3rd year now. So we really kind of started all of it right post-COVID.
Yeah.
And we personally were a family who really hunkered down during COVID because we were caretakers for my high-risk sister. And so during that whole COVID time, we were so deprived of people and we were surviving. And as soon as we came out of that, as soon as we transitioned out of that, we realized how much we needed community and how much community needed us, you know? And so it really became we want community, but community can't take over our home life either.
Right.
And so we have very firm boundaries as far as like when we schedule things, the maximum number of days that we will allow, even for field trips and all this stuff, because we're still firm believers in people need to be at home to have relationships with their kids, you know, or even just go elsewhere with your kids. We don't want to be your end all be all, but we do want to support that.
Right. Exactly.
That's wonderful. I think that's such a great type of program, and we moved here about 2 years ago, and
Oh.
it's rare to find that in this area. I didn't hear about your co-op for a while, and it when we moved down here, all I heard is, you know, kind of like a hybrid school type thing.
Yeah.
As far as co-op, and that was very different than what we were used to. We love flexibility. I think you're exactly right. That's so important for us as homeschool parents, that we can offer our kids that flow and flexibility and relaxed environment, and just to have that community. Oh my goodness, that's so much needed as homeschooling parents for sure. Kind of more for us sometimes, I feel, than even for our kids, you know, to be able to just talk to other parents about the things we're going through.
That's one of the big things is we when we set it up, we didn't want it to be like a drop-off thing where you drop off your kids in the morning and come pick them up in the evening, even though some of the kids do have classes all throughout the day, so that does end up happening. But we do encourage the parents, hey, stay in the waiting room, come hang out, meet other parents, talk to other people, get to know the other people in the community, and they really take into it. And you know, we've seen a lot of growth in people where they come in, they make friends, and they sit down, they take up a couple of tables, they talk, the kids play, they kind of share about what's going on in their life, sharing the struggles that they're having, talking about different things that are going on and how they're handling it. And it's been a really great opportunity for not only the kids to socialize, because we're like, you know, this is a great way for your kids to make friends, but it's also a great way for you to find other like-minded people who, you know, it's not a super high commitment. It's not 4 or 5 days a week having to get up at 6 a.m. and stuff, but it's a great way to actually get out and meet people.
Fantastic. So along your homeschooling journey, what are some things or tips that you feel like have been beneficial, whether it be in your community or just you as a family, and maybe even speak, since I haven't really talked to any homeschool dads as a part of this virtual homeschool week, you know, how can dads get involved? I feel like a lot of dads kind of feel like, okay, that's my wife's thing. I don't know what to even offer her. So what can you kind of share about that?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And that, I mean, kind of growing up, that was kind of how it was too. My dad, you know, worked full time. And so homeschooling was kind of something we did at home with mom, and that was the thing. But I've been really blessed that I'm able to work from home. So I'm able to be here for a lot of it. But even if you don't have that flexibility, one of the things that I do is, particularly with the curriculum that we started this year, is they have to read a portion of something and then half of it is them answering questions and investigating and doing some stuff on their own. So at night, a couple nights a week, I read that portion to them before we go to bed, and then the next day they pick it up with mom and do that lesson. So basically, getting involved and doing what you can is a huge part. I know a lot of guys, they work full time, over 40 hours a week and stuff like that. And it's difficult to feel like you can be really, really involved, but there are things you can do. So, a lot of dads think it's the basics, it's the math, the reading, the literature and stuff, but it's not just that. It's car maintenance, it's repair, it's building, it's all the things that you can learn to do, essentially lawn care, things like that. Like just getting involved and teaching the kids and taking them along with you is a huge part of it. It doesn't have to be just the what we consider like the core stuff, even though that's a great thing to do as well. But like I said, there are getting in there and reading portions of the stuff to them, or just finding out where your strengths are and helping in those areas can be a big thing. And one of the biggest things I think is, and I we've heard this so many times, but the mom will want to homeschool. She'll be done the research, talk to people and stuff like that. And it's the dad really kind of dragging their feet on, well, I don't know, it's what about socialization and what about this and what about that? I can tell you this much, go for it. There's almost nothing that you're going to be missing by going homeschooling versus public school. Colleges, it's not a big deal. In fact, many major colleges are looking for homeschoolers. They know that they kind of excel in different areas. You can get involved in sports programs. Even the public school sports program in your area is more than likely you can be involved in. There are several laws about that. There can even be things like doing technical, what do they call it?
The tech degree.
Yeah, the tech stuff that schools are offering now, or even the STEM stuff. You can find those things, or even better yet, if they don't have that, then yet you can do it. If they don't have sports teams yet, you can build it. If they don't have a STEM program, you can build it. That's kind of one of the awesome benefits of homeschooling is whatever there isn't out there, you can build it. And it takes time, it takes work and all that kind of stuff. But there's almost nothing that you can get, especially now with the way that homeschooling is growing, that you can get in a public school that you can't get homeschooling. So if your wife is on board, if they are ready to go, if they have done the research, if they know what they're getting into, there's no reason to drag your feet. Go for it.
I think the biggest thing with dads, though, is they don't realize how much power they really do have in the family. I've been very blessed with an amazing husband who does understand his power. But as far as like, I remember he was working third shift for a while, so we would literally shift our schedule just to see him, or just intensive long work days where he couldn't have a read aloud or anything like that. But what he did was he always made sure we had either dinner or breakfast or something together. And he'd ask me before we go sit down at dinner, and he'd be like, okay, so what did the kids learn today? And he'd pick out one topic just to make them tell him something about it, And so we'd sit over the dinner table or over the breakfast table, and we'd talk about, the hymns or the Bible or these crazy things in history, and so many debates of what's right versus what's wrong. And well, you think this, why not this, And I think, it doesn't take time to do that. You can do that in 10 minutes. He's done it before when we've gone on family walks. He's done it over the dinner table. But just this power that a dad has to say, oh my goodness, that is so amazing. You're learning that at this age. Most kids don't learn this, or you have such deep thoughts, or, all these things that give power to our kids. And I guess as a mom who's with her kids day in and day out and nonstop, we can tell them the same things, but it doesn't mean anything, So just saying these things from the point of view of a dad is so important.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, if you can't do anything else, doing some recap at the dinner table is still being involved. It still reinforces those things that were discussed about earlier in the day or earlier in the week, and it still gets them thinking about it and doing those critical thinking skills. It's all, it's all still good. Yeah.
Such great advice. I think we in the homeschooling community don't help dads along enough to let them know, that they have a part in this. And I love everything you guys said with like homeschooling is life. Like it's, dads, you live life, things you can contribute even with conversation or encouragement, that is still taking part in the homeschooling experience. And it doesn't have to be sitting down doing a page of math with them or
Right.
anything that or anything that's super and what we think of as learning or super intensive. So that's wonderful. And I think that would be encouraging too. I know my husband a lot of times that was kind of, so I was homeschooled. He went to school, so it was kind of opposite of you two. And sometimes he's just like, I don't know what I can do, So I think that's wonderful points. So are there any things that you would just like to share? I know that there may be some parents that are watching this that are kind of on the fence as to whether they want to homeschool or not. I think you've shared some awesome encouragement for them, or just maybe a lot of parents get burnt out with homeschooling and doubt whether you can continue on. So anything that you want to share just as encouragement for people that, are on the fence or maybe their tank's just running low.
My biggest thing is when my tank is running low, I always remind myself that most of the time it's a season. Because honestly, we all have those seasons of just everything feels so hard. And it's so normal to have those seasons. The homeschool community doesn't want to talk about it because we all want to look perfect, even though we're not. I don't know why that's a thing. But it's honestly, it's a season. And if it lasts for longer than a season, then you can change it. But you don't need to change anything just because it's necessarily hard. What you need to focus on is connection with your family and with your kids, because the hard seasons are normally hard for them too. And if you seek that connection with them, the hard seasons normally feel a lot less hard. So you can always tell, it's awful. You can always tell when I'm in a hard season with homeschooling because you'll suddenly see me like posting all these nature pictures and we're going on nature hikes, and looking like the perfect homeschool mom over here. It's because that's how we're connecting, and it looks so deceiving, but that's what it is. It's when things are hard, I'm going to seek connection with my kids because it's hard for them too. And so if we're just trying to get us through a season, I will happily cancel a few days of school or curriculum just to go and seek that connection. And so
good.
I mean, that's kind of my biggest thing is if somebody's hard, figure out why. And it could be a curriculum issue. It could be that the curriculum's over their head or whatever. But honestly, 99% of hard in homeschooling is connection.
Yeah. Well, one of the best things about homeschooling is the freedom of the time and the freedom to do what you want, to be able to work your day in a way that works best for you. So there are seasons where maybe you do need to pull back away from everything, all the extra stuff, and just kind of focus on home and focus on family and focus on connection for a little while, just because we can, as much as we can burn out anywhere else, we can burn out by trying to do too much. We can feel like if we're not doing more, if we're not doing more, if we're not doing more, then they're missing out on something. And then sometimes that just leads to burnout in itself. So being able to pull back and say, okay, I mean, we've even had people pull back from co-op and stuff and be like, you know what, this is a focus season for us. So, we love you guys, but we won't be back this year. We'll probably see you in the future. We're like, that's absolutely fine. We totally get it. We take big chunks out of the year where we don't do, especially in the winter during the holidays, we don't do co-op and stuff because we're like, This is where we are focusing as a family. We are pulling everything back and we're just focusing on time together. And there's nothing wrong with if everybody wakes up and they are in a just grumpy mood, nobody's focused, nobody can pay attention. Having a drop everything and read day. There's nothing wrong with it. Catch up on another day, whatever. It's not like, I mean, I know in some places there are, there's certain standards on what you have to meet as far as like hours a day, days a year, testing and things like that. But even within those systems, you can work out being able to slow things down, take it back, and kind of focus on what's important for a minute until everyone gets to a place where you can do more again.
Great advice to just embrace that flow. Take the time. I love the nature walks. That's a wonderful idea because they're still learning through that, and but building that connection. That's such a wonderful perspective to have. So if people want to connect with you all and your homeschooling community, can you share how they can connect with you? I know you have a fall session coming up here soon.
Yes, we have a website, homeschoolexodus.com. That's where you're going to find most of our class lists, our club lists, things like that. We also have a Facebook page where we post a lot of updates on upcoming things. We have our fall registration is open until August 15th, I think. And so we run things. We have two different ways of doing things. You can either enroll as a class family, which means you get access to our classes and our field trips and all that stuff, or just a member family. You're like, I'm not interested in classes, but I want to do field trips. I want to do parties. We have a new thing this year, clubs, which is open to both class and member families. So we kind of make it flexible for everybody. If you're like, hey, I want to do classes and I want to do field trips, all the member fun stuff, we've got that option. Or if you're like, we've got enough classes, we're really just interested in doing the field trips, the parties, all that kind of stuff. We also have that. So you can find out all about that via our website, or our Facebook page generally has a lot of updates on it too.
And most importantly, also on our website, we also have something called advocates. Our advocates have been trained, they have research, they are homeschool moms themselves who just volunteer their time to help people homeschool.
Yep.
So whether you are just now beginning to homeschool or whether you need to pull out of the public school system or wherever you are at, these advocates will walk with you every step of the way. They will help you figure out what is the law in your state. We only work with Alabama and Georgia. They will figure out what is the law in your state, if you need a cover school, how to get the testing done, and if you want to use a curriculum, what curriculum might be best for what you dream or envision of your homeschooling. And they do all of this for completely free, just on their own time. And they are amazing. And they are listed on our website under the advocate tab. But they are just a huge asset to Exodus Academy as a whole, because I can't do it alone. But they hold the hands of the people who need it, which is what we all, I feel like, need when we first start homeschooling. So they're just valuable assets.
They can also help walk you through the registration process if you're interested in joining anything. So they're kind of there for both helping just general homeschool, things like that, or if you're wanting to join, walking you through that process as well.
And also we're really big advocates on Exodus isn't for everybody, and we get that. So they help you whether you want to join Exodus or not.
Yes.
That's wonderful that you offer that option for families, especially having someone walk beside you. If you've never navigated trying to homeschool, having that option, that is wonderful for our homeschooling community to have that available. Well, very nice. That was lovely to talk to you both. I am just so excited to have connected with you and get to pass this information on to anybody that I'm connected with, and to post this online so that we can spread the word, because you all are just such a blessing to our local homeschool community. And I know that this is just going to bless people. So thank you so much. And I hope you have a lovely evening, and yeah.
Thank you. It was great to talk to you too.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank